detective. Thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again. Another initial reaction. We've had a couple of quick hits in the cinema, Jared, for highly touted horror films.
Mm-hmm.
This week's one was In a Violent Nature, which we saw last night. So we will go into our initial thoughts on that very, very soon. But before we do that, let's quickly go round the grounds. What have you been watching?
Well, I finished up Maxine. I think the last time we spoke, I was going to a Maxine for a second time because I got evacuated due to a fire alarm the first time around after having seen about an hour and 10 or something of it.
Correct.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. It's probably, in my opinion, it's probably at the lower tier of that trilogy, but I quite liked it.
Okay.
I know Bacon's actually copped a bit of flack on this one too, saying
Has
he was
he?
over the top, but I enjoyed his performance very much because he was just a sleazy kind of
Bacon.
moron.
He is coming in for some treatment recently.
I thought that was quite good. Just a nice capper to the trilogy, I thought. It doesn't surprise you all that much. I was a little sort of disappointed at how down the line it was with where it was sort of going, but they did, influences of kind of 80 slashes and a bit of Italian sort of cinema in there.
Okay.
So I quite liked it. I watched Mayhem.
Mayhem.
The
What's
one
that?
in The Office. You've seen it.
Oh,
It's the
with,
one in The Office with Stephen Ewan and Samara Weaving.
Yes.
Yeah, fucking cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that.
I quite liked that one. It was another Joe Bob Briggs one that I hadn't seen. I think it was from a couple of seasons ago. And it was the same director, Joe Lynch, that did Suitable Flesh. So while I was waiting for another episode, I
Slipped that one in?
went back to that one. Got dragged to the cinemas for If with the kids.
Okay, yeah.
Look, Krasinski's a talented fella, but she just fell a bit short. I mean, essentially he's taken... I know A Quiet Place is pretty good. I like A Quiet Place. But I had people telling me, it's such a fantastic idea. And I'm kind of like, it's an idea that's been done a couple of times, the whole silence. I mean, it was... The Descent had elements of that. Last of Us had elements of that. So that wasn't a thing that got me over the line for it. I was like, it's just a reasonably well done execution of that. This one's kind of similar in that it takes it takes something from a very well known movie and sort of applies it to a kids movie setting.
Okay.
And it's not bad. And there was some parts where they went into sort of imaginary places, imaginary friends and shit like that, where the I guess the VFX artists got to have a bit of fun, and that was kind of cool. But yeah, mid tier. Lights Out. I watched a film called Lights Out that I jumped on because Scotty Adkins was one of the credited players, but it turned out it was a Frank Grillo flick with Scott Adkins essentially showing up for a cameo.
You got fucking Grillo stiffed you, didn't he?
I sat there watching Frank Grillo and Mekhi Phifer for an hour thinking, where the fuck's Scott Adkins? But all in all, it was pretty good.
Look, I like Frankie Grillo,
Frank Grillo, yeah.
but he's gone into hell. He's kind of hit the direct streaming market.
Yeah,
now.
This was standard stuff. It was a kind of Grillo was a military guy. There was a fight club involved. And Scott Adkins was on the sidelines for far too long. That's pretty much what I came out with.
Well, if you hire Adkins, you have to have him kick some heads.
Well, as soon as he turned up, it perked up a bit again. Like he had a bit of an edge to that one. What was the one we watched? Avengement.
Yeah,
where he was bordering on the sort of Cockney accent. And he was a bit loose and whatever. I thought he needed to be there a bit earlier, but yeah, it was all right.
Okay.
I watched Armour of God. So that was a Jackie Chan one that I've been meaning to watch for quite some time. It was okay. It often shows up in his best movies list, but I just thought it was kind of...
standard.
It was standard stuff, but with a couple of exceptional fucking stunts.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, the famous one where he leaps onto the top of a fucking hot air balloon. Like...
Jackie.
And I believe Jackie had no experience jumping out of planes and shit when he did that. So...
Jackie.
Just, yeah.
Fuck. So
that was a worthwhile watch, but... I think I've seen better from him.
Yeah.
I want to get into, I think Project A is another one from that time period that I haven't watched that's supposed to be pretty good. obviously more police story movies that we haven't seen. So I'll try to get into those as well. Obviously, we watched Longlegs and had a chat about that, so that was on the list. I then watched Twister. Went back to Twister, which I hadn't seen in quite a few years. Always enjoyed it, and did this time around too. I think it just holds up pretty well, mainly because Paxton and Helen Hunt were very good together. I then went to the cinemas to check out Twisters, and it was a similar story. I had a really good time with it.
Okay, good.
I mean, it's very, very similar on a lot of fronts, but once again, you get two performers at the front that are very good.
Yeah.
And have a bit of rapport, and yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Good. I'm going to see it tomorrow.
Excellent. I watched the original Carnival of Souls again. That was the latest Joe Bob Briggs. I've seen it a few times, but
didn't you say it was a bit average?
No,
or was it pretty good? It's a remake that was bad. Jesus Christ.
A remake's not.
Why am I not surprised by that?
Yeah, the original. It was one that I watched the first time, and I was kind of a little, I don't know, maybe bored was the way to go. But I've developed a bit of an appreciation for it. Like they do very, very well with the black and white film that they were working with, and there is some parts of it. It's one of those ones where it's like. Initially, I was looking for the story in it, but when I kind of stepped back and just let the limited story kind of go and just took in what it was, it's actually a really well done bit of work. So quite like that. Didn't quite like Night Beast.
Oh, I was going to watch that. It's on Shudder, isn't it? Oh, fuck.
It's on Shudder. It's been on Tubi for a while.
Are you sort of waving me off from here? Should I at least have a look?
I mean, I read some letterbox work, and people were fucking. There was a section of people that were fucking loving it. I pegged it at about a 1.5.
Oh,
He was
shit,
pretty
so
fucking inept.
So it's fucking bad.
It's
that bad.
It's very bad.
Oh,
It's
man.
just like, yeah, I didn't find much to like about it at all.
Oh my god! Thank God I skipped that because I was this close to grabbing it.
Similar feelings about the April Fool's Day remake, which I also watched. Again, Tubi's leaving soon list.
Fucking Jesus Christ!
I saw that with 3 to 4 days left. Oh shit! I better get that before 3 to 4 days passes and it's off Tubi for a weekend and then it's back on next week. Like
that is the absolute low of the remakes.
I reckon they're doing. I've come around to the thinking that I don't think the rights are always running out when they're doing that because so many movies seem to be. It's like they renew them and then they're back on there. I don't know how that process works, but I'd imagine there's got to be at least some semblance of phone calls, meetings, emails going past. I'm like, this was in the leaving soon a month ago. Fuck, we can't be renewing. So I reckon. I do think there's an element of them just reminding you that it's on the fucking service.
Oh, yeah.
And they get me. They fucking get me.
Fuck, how they get me?
So, yeah, I wish I hadn't have seen it for that one.
Oh, God.
Which is a shame because I do like the original.
The original's excellent.
But this one's got a case of fucking worst remake sort of
vibes.
Case to make for worst remakes of that time period. Other than that, I watched Clipped. I've nearly finished Clipped. I watched some of the remaining episodes.
How's it going?
It's not bad. It's pretty good. I mean, me and Maddie sort of had similar things on it that we'd obviously because we follow the NBA. When it was happening, we were on top of it.
Yeah,
we've both listened to the podcast that went quite in depth on things. So it's not really. There's nothing really new, but it's fun to watch performers like Ed O'Neill and Jackie Weaver and Lawrence Fishburne kind of put their take on it. I still get a bit annoyed sometimes where they just throw something in that you know didn't happen.
Yeah. And
I feel like at times they throw it in when it doesn't necessarily have a real dramatic impact but you know, they have their reasons for doing that. I understand it and it's not a bad show. No one really comes out well.
No.
I mean Doc Rivers comes out all right. He's mostly had the stuff put upon him, but Shelley Sterling is probably the one that comes along next. They've sort of portrayed her as having to deal with Donald Sterling's fucking buffoonery for years. But she's also kind of complicit in some of that stuff. So,
of course.
But yeah, Sterling and V. Stiviano, as we kind of expected, both come out looking pretty poor.
Mm.
But yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. That was you. All right. I went to a Ouija, the original Ouija. Terrible. Fucking terrible. Like, I was actually very surprised.
April Fool's Day remake.
Oh,
which one's
better than April Fool's Day remake,
Okay,
Jesus Christ. Because it's cheap
Night
as well.
Beast, better than
I
Night
don't know, I
Beast?
haven't seen Night Beast, but yeah.
Get back to me.
Proof will be in the pudding on that one.
It'll be leaving Shutter soon, I'm sure. So you better watch it.
So it was shocking, and I was thinking to myself, fuck, I thought this was supposed to be all right. It was the sequel that was all right, which was Ouija Origin of Evil, which is directed by Mike Flanagan and is 10 times better than the first one. Yeah, it's got its problems, but Flanagan knows his way around the material, and he does some really good things with it on a small budget. Like, fuck. What the hell happened in the original? And I believe it's a Blumhouse Platinum Judes pairing.
Okay.
So how those people got together, I don't know. But so
You saying Blum got bamboozled?
I think Babe blew a couple of things up, and he went, "All right, yeah, okay." So definitely check out the sequel, and they're not really that connected, so it's perfectly fine to watch the second one first. I watched the second season of Homicide on Netflix. This one takes place in Los Angeles, and the first season took place in New York. I was a bit disappointed because it's all celebrity kind of cases.
Yeah.
And the first one's Phil Spector, and I was like, well, I could have Googled all this. Like, it kind of isn't really that in-depth. It's not particularly enlightening that you're getting something that you weren't already able to get. So I was a little disappointed.
Okay.
I
can only assume you were just sort of buttering up for Unsolved Mysteries.
I was buttering up for
getting ready
season 5 or whatever.
Ready for Mothman to sort of swoop in.
Let me tell you something, mate. If Mothman doesn't deliver, I'll be fucking... Like, this is the thing. I have harped on about Unsolved Mysteries ever since it came on. What a shit show. I've never... And then every season I pull it out.
Continue to watch.
I give it a go.
See, I brushed. I haven't watched... I think I may have watched an episode or two from the second season. But... I mean, I joke about it, but if you're not going to give me Bigfoot, I'm not interested.
Yeah, you can jam it.
Okay, you've thrown a sprinkling of Mothman my way, and I've
You've
colour me intrigued.
You perked up when they said Mothman.
Well, you should have seen me in the trailer when they show that woman saying, "Oh, I kind of I felt something behind me," and then I see it, and I'm thinking, "Bigfoot, fuck, we're on here." And then, when the extended trailer sort of goes into it, I thought, shit, I think it's Mothman. And then I found out that it is Mothman. So I'm a little upset, but you're kind of heading in the right direction.
But you'll watch it.
I mean, you turn down Mothman Street, the next turn is on the Bigfoot Avenue.
Oh, no doubt. It's definitely Bigfoot Avenue with Loch Ness fucking Crescent just nearby.
You wait until
That's
they
a
see the
fucking block
numbers.
party up there.
You wait until they see the numbers and they look, fuck, the Mothman episode's gone through the roof. Especially seems to be a small section of Australia that have watched it about 15 times.
Just a quick tip for young players, though, with regards to Homicide. The last episode is a guy whose wife goes missing. Don't ask women out. When your wife's missing and has not been found, and you've been in the press going, "Oh, geez, I hope she comes home. I miss her." And then the police are to find out he's asked every woman in a fucking 20-block radius out on a date. Like,
common sense, you think.
You don't think the cops are going to go, "Oh, there's nothing to that." That's perfectly normal.
Pretty standard behaviour.
Good on you,
I believe
fellas.
it's just a normal part of the grieving process.
He's got Tourette's. He's walking around going, "Do you want to go on a date? Do you want to
Jesus Christ.
I watched season 5. I'm 6 episodes into season 5 of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
Which
I
was
actually watched the first couple as well.
quite good.
Yep.
Quite good. Like, they found that we made mention of we were concerned they might sort of run out of good material.
Look, Adam, I believe it was the end of season.
You
Possibly
said
season 3.
this is done.
Possibly the end of season 3 or season 4. I suggested they were running out of stories and should possibly wrap it up. Here I am in season 5, loving every minute of it.
No, but they've got a couple of really good episodes here.
Yeah.
Bruce the Barber Beefcake was an interesting episode. Buff Bagwell, interesting episode. He's a fucking loose cannon, that guy.
Yeah.
And then I just finished up one. God, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was kind of like the king.
Harley Race.
Harley Race, that's it. Who was also a fucking loose cannon. And now we're into some guy called Chris Cole, who, shit, He seems like he's right out there.
Did they broach on Harley Race when he turned up on that Secrets of Wrestling Exposed?
Yeah.
show?
They said they did his voice, but you could tell.
Yeah, I think
And then
everyone said.
all they did was just put a fucking shadow over his face.
I'm pretty sure everybody in the wrestling industry has come out and said, "Oh yeah, as soon as I saw the fucking silhouette, I knew it was Harley Race."
Yeah, that's right. So that was quite humorous. It's good stuff. It's just really good series.
Yeah, I think they struck on a bit of a gold mine because those stories about some of those wrestlers and in the 80s, it was still the fucking Wild West in that industry.
Oh.
But then it's got the whole Vince McMahon thing. And then, so Vince McMahon running the show still ran a ship that was fucking very much coloured by what had come before it. So they were still doing shit in the 90s and early 2000s that you would say, fuck, you can't get away with that stuff in any workplace.
No. I tell you what, though, I think he's a penis, but he always makes me laugh. Eric Bischoff constantly makes me laugh. He's just he seems to take this with a grain of salt now. Yeah, like he doesn't he's not hung up on anything. And
he takes these kind of shots at people, but they're amusing.
But they're just sort of gentle. They're just sort of gentle.
The one that I recall from the recent episodes I watched was Buff Bagwell when they talked about how he tried to get into movies and then he ended up in that fucking Andy Sedaris flick.
And he's like, I had to sign off on that.
Yeah.
Did you watch it? No, I didn't.
I haven't seen it, no.
And then the other bloke goes, he tried. They show a clip from it. He's fucking awful.
Just a quick side note. I did mention this to you, but just indulge me because I feel like it's quite a tangent. But the part where there is a story that I'm not going to give it all away in case anyone's watching it, but there is a story on the Buff Bagwell that involves him shaving his balls. And there was a wrestling show that came through Canberra in I think it was about 2002. So I was still watching wrestling at that point, and the names on the card were reasonably big for the time. So I think Bret Hart was involved as not wrestling in a match, but I think Jeff Jarrett was involved. There was names that we'd been watching on WCW and WWF for years, and Buff Bagwell was one of them. So this was prior to when we all had a camera in our phone. So Buff wasn't very forward thinking when he did this, but on his way down to the ring, we're all sitting there watching, and he just kind of grabs his camera off someone in the front row and then puts it down the front of his strides and goes click and then hands it back with a big, with his fucking brash persona, smiling and carrying on and whatever.
Man.
And we're sitting there going, fuck, what's he doing? Turned out we worked, me and the mate that I was there with worked with a guy who was in the group there. And he's gone to us when we're talking about the show at work and found out he was there. And he's like, yeah, that was my mate that had the camera. And he's like, you got the fucking film developed. Not a hair on the bloke.
Oh,
he's like, yeah, he's fucking clean shaven down there. So when this story came on Dark Side of the Ring,
man.
I mean, it was a funny story anyway, but I was further reminded of
that incident in Canberra.
But yeah,
good old
Buff,
fucking
just
Buff.
Think actions have consequences, Buff.
Buff, you know what, mate? We need pubic hair. It's required. like that's why we have it. It's a protection thing.
Just a trim if you need.
Yeah, okay. So occasionally you got to get out in the summer and fucking give it a quick trim up. But that's it.
That guy, what was his name? Slick Johnson, who was a referee.
Yeah.
I think he was actually refereeing the Canberra show. His description of that was just
it was
fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it was
I think we need him on more episodes.
Yeah, he was good.
Funny.
He was really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were watching some teen films. I told you we watched, what was it called? Some Kind of Wonderful. We watched Pretty in Pink this time. I tell you what, one thing I noticed, Pretty in Pink's okay, I guess, for one of the John Hughes ones. I tell you what, though, you can see the quality actors back then.
Mm.
Like, fucking Spader just walks off with that movie. He's the biggest cunt known to man. Like, he's fucking, every time he speaks, it's just dripping with contempt.
Yeah.
And he's really, really good. Whereas McCarthy's kind of just bland. You can see the talent in Spader that you couldn't really see in the leads, except for John Cryer. I actually think John Cryer is pretty good in it because he can do something with that character. It's kind of a weird out there character. We then went to Teen Wolf, Jared. Oh my God, I forgot how bad this was. I really like my wife loves it, and she's like, it's a nostalgia thing, like that was one that we watched, and I was like, I forgot this is awful. Like it's awful across the board. It's awful. Everything about it except for Michael J. Fox. He's got such charisma that he does a little bit with the shitty material. But also the effects. When you first see his dad, holy shit, I thought I was watching Harry and the fucking Hendersons. Like, oh my God, what's happened here? Oh, the effects. And clearly that's a look they were going for, but they should have rethought that. Possibly. It was bad.
Possibly.
I then watched Backdraft.
Oh, yeah. That
Kurt,
held up.
This is prime Kurt. This is Kurt in his prime. How did it hold up? Really good.
Okay.
It's too overstuffed. There's too many things going on. When you actually notice that there's so many storylines happening, it seems like it's too much. But the fire stuff is fucking awesome. Like, it's still awesome today. And, it's 1991 when they made that. So the work going into making it as realistic as they could in terms of the fire is fantastic. And you know what? My personal favourite storyline is the stuff with De Niro as the arson investigator, where he gets caught up with him, and they start investigating the explosions and the backdrafts. Some of that stuff's really cool. Like, it's really, really well done, especially when he dresses down some bloke for fucking. So you busted out a window. Is this before you fucking realised you were standing in a lake of gasoline? He's fucking going off. I love that bit. And the last thing I watched the 3-episode doco on Netflix called Dirty Pop about NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys and Lou Pearlman, noted scumbag and fraudster Lou Pearlman. It was interesting. It didn't seem quite deep enough, Jared. They talked to AJ McLean, they talked to Howie Darrow, and they talked to Chris Kirkpatrick from NSYNC. But that's it. You don't go any deeper than that. And those guys had interesting shit to say. They did have and both of those bands got away from Pearlman before the stink hit. The really bad stuff went on. But they also were ripping out boy band names that he put together like Natural. I was like, who the fuck is Natural? There was also O-Town on there. I was like, holy shit.
Just stop.
It seemed like Lou just couldn't stop doing it.
It's over, Lou. Yeah. It's over.
He was still making some shit about called Big in America, like in 2008. I was like, fuck, Lou, you were way off there. It was over then. And that's it for me. Now, I just want to do a quick up or down because we've been to the cinemas twice in, a week. Mm-hmm. And both times we've seen this particular trailer. And we've both got some pretty, I would have said, robust feelings about it. The remake to The Crow, we've seen both times. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say right here, right now, it looks fucking awful. Like, awful.
Just put it out there.
Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They should not have made this. There is no point.
Yeah, it doesn't look great.
In my opinion, if you're going to make it like this, because it looks like shit. Now, I could be wrong. I think the chances of being wrong are fucking minuscule.
Yeah.
It's not like seeing a Top Gun Maverick trailer and going, fuck, I think they got it right.
No.
You know what I mean? It's not like that.
No.
It just looks like a over-saturated, like full of CGI effects and all that kind of crap and all these sort of wanky kind of visual flourishes and stuff.
It kind of simultaneously looks like too much, but bland.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does. There was a couple of points where I'm looking at it and everyone's painted up or you've got these outfits, but it just looks really bland.
Yeah.
I like
Skarsgård.
Yeah, same.
I like him. I think he's really good.
Yeah,
but
and I'm hoping for the best, but
I just feel like
this can't see it at the moment.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first Crow had a dark, gritty feel.
Yeah.
And it was really, really well played. It had some, fantastic visuals, but it also had a bit of story.
Yeah.
I mean, I will reserve judgment, but at this stage, it's a big down.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's hard to see anything really good going on there. I just don't know. It looks like
who's it for?
Not for us again. Look, I'm a little bit gun shy after saying a couple of recent trailers look like shit and turned out all right. I just don't know whether just keeping the same story is going to work again, because they've tried it a few times with a very sort of similar turn to things.
I mean, you were a Crow 3 guy, weren't you? You said that one was all right. The one with Kirsten Dunst in it? Was that Crow 3?
I don't know. So I didn't...
Wicked Prayer or whatever it's called?
I didn't mind it as much as the other ones. I didn't dislike it as much as the other ones.
Shit, but not...
It was average. It was average, but I just felt there was a turn to it that was like, okay, well, at least we're doing something different than the old "you've killed my girlfriend, so I'm here for revenge" sort of.
Yeah.
Because that's okay. I mean, fuck, it's worked for John Wick pretty successfully.
Yeah, but there are other reasons for that.
But when you... So this is going to be the 5th Crow movie. And it's going to be the same for 4 of them, pretty much. So, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about that, how that's going to play. But, yeah, just looking at it, I just kind of... I don't know what I'm getting into with the trailer. It's just... What it's showing me is not something that's making me say, shit, I've got to go and see this.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
There was also another trailer, quick side note. It's the AI takes over one from Blumhouse.
I think I've copped that 3 times.
What's that called again?
Is it Afraid?
Yeah, it might be Afraid.
AI or
Afraid.
something like that.
This is where I say Blumhouse need to just... nah. You put that on Netflix, guys, or on Amazon Prime. Like, it looks terrible. Jeff Wadlow not involved, though.
They're making money.
Well, it would have been made for fucking 5.
Yeah. So they'll chuck it in there. They'll chuck it in there for a week or two and collect.
I mean, the only saving grace for me is I like John Cho.
Yeah.
So it's the only thing that holds me.
I think...
I'll be there.
The problem is, you copped a few of these with Blumhouse because you knew that there was going to be a bit of a gem in there somewhere, or a really solid film in there with some good ideas, and you still hold that. But
is the barrel? Are we scraping a little bit lower now?
I think maybe we are, because this just looks like Megan without a doll.
Yeah, even Megan, which I thought was okay, but nothing more than that.
Megan's definitely one of the ones though where I look at it and I'm like, okay, well here's why I'm in for Blumhouse.
Yeah, like the ideas were solid in that one. Anything involving fucking Jeff Wadlow has just been, well, look at it. He was in fucking Truth or Dare, Fantasy Island, and Imaginary. All some of their worst movies. Yeah. Like, why would you fucking listen to him? When he came into my office, I'd be like, security.
But again,
get this guy out of here.
They're all making money.
I know.
They're just done.
And again, it's because they're done for nothing.
But that's, if you're Jason
and that's
Blum,
the business model.
If you're Jason Blum, you say, that was because of me, Jeff.
Yeah.
I gave you the budget that this worked out.
Jeff, we're going to have to give you $2 million. I can't keep doing this to you. Yeah. All right. Let's jump into our initial thoughts on In a Violent Nature. Mm-hmm. I've had time to ruminate.
Simmer,
get my thoughts together, because I wasn't quite sure how to feel after watching it last night, because it's an interesting concept. I think I don't know if there's anything by the way of spoilers here, but...
Well, we are going to talk a little about spoilers and whatnot.
But, I think if people know the kind of the basic concept...
Yes.
Look, I think overall, after sitting down and considering it, ruminating for a little, I think it was reasonably successful in what it did. Slasher movies are very hard to do anything new. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're very much, they stick to a template, a formula, and it's very, very difficult to find a slasher movie where you're like, shit, they've gone a little bit off the track and they've kind of nailed it. In this case, showing it from the perspective of the slasher is actually it's quite a solid way of doing it, and for the most part, it kind of works. Which, there are some things I didn't like, and I'll get to a couple of things I didn't like. But and clearly, it's made for not much. Like it's not a big budget or anything like that. But overall, I kind of felt like, they kind of got a fair bit of this right. If I was talking, where was I at now? I'd say 3 out of 5. Like I felt like it did what we were looking for.
Mm.
So my feelings are it was reasonably successful and pretty well handled overall.
Yep.
How'd you feel?
I was higher.
Higher?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think, obviously, the concept was an easy sell, but I actually think I got probably more out of it than what I was expecting. I think, what's his name? Chris Nash, is it? The guy that directed it he did a really good job of sort of taking things and constantly making me think, this is like this is like a scene from this Friday the 13th or Halloween or something here, and making me think, this is what it might look like from the other side, from Michael's end or Jason's end or something like that. But then going a little bit, pushing it a little bit further than that. It very much takes his time. Like it takes a long time to get from point to point in certain parts, but I don't think it was like wasted time. Like I was pretty much enjoying it the whole time, and he was sort of managing to use that to ratchet up the tension and shit in a different way than we're used to. So I like the way he sort of dipped in and out of familiar scenes using that perspective. Obviously, the endings split a lot of people.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, I quite like a lot of what happened at the end.
I think that I understand where I think they were trying to go. Like I actually do, because I felt what I thought something was going to happen. So he kind of teased somewhat that we should, because we're conditioned as slasher fans to expect something in that period, and then that didn't necessarily occur. So I kind of get what I think the outcome of that was meant to be.
Yeah, and I know some people have not been overly pleased with how it got there at the end. I quite liked it. The more I sort of go into it, the more I think about it. I quite liked it, and that's the other thing. Since we've finished it up, which was quite some time ago now, I haven't stopped thinking about it, which is to me is a good thing. Like I'm taking that. I mean, I didn't finish April Fool's Day, the remake, and think, fuck, I've got to ponder this for the next 10 hours to kind of really dig into my thoughts about it. I think it's a positive thing for this one. So I was, I'm still kind of hovering between a 3.5 and a 4. So I think I'd probably say a 3.5 to be safe now, and reserve a half star for a rewatch possibly. And
I think that, like Longlegs, this one needs another viewing. Like before you can really get your full feelings on it.
You didn't tell me you were going to watch Longlegs again. Well, I need to be there because I want to see your reaction to Nicolas Cage's vocal stylings again.
At least no one was doing
Did
that.
you notice? I nearly flicked it through to you through the week.
Are there memes out there now?
No. They released a song.
Oh no!
They released a song, like an in-universe song of the Killers. When he was a musician back in the day.
Oh my god! So, how was it? Have you
it starts off, and I got a bit of a giggle because it was Cage kind of wailing again. And I thought I've got to send this on, but yeah.
No,
I was hoping it was actually going to be that song.
I know, fuck. Jesus, if it was.
I mean, if I had fired that up and I had let me in now, I'd have been like, fuck, I'm definitely sending this to you. I'm gonna next time you leave your phone unattended, I'm going to send it as your ringtone.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Okay, so positive things for me. I think the as we said, the actual way they've done it reminded me a little bit of Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon.
different approach. but
Different,
yeah,
slightly different
similar-
approach, but similar in sort of some of the things that they did.
Yes.
One particular scene that I thought was really well done was where he killed somebody, but he used basically he tracked the killer in almost in a circle round the cabin,
Yeah.
and the way he drew them out and everything. Like that was really clever.
Yeah,
like,
which
that
was
really
like,
clever.
and you could very much imagine it from the other side.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, it's one of those scenes where if you watched it in a Friday the 13th, you'd be like, well, Jason's just fucking disappeared and then he's popped up somewhere else.
reappeared.
But
So
it's like,
I like the way they did it.
He's actually just done a fucking loop around the house. Like,
Yeah. So I like the way that was done. You know what? Initially, it sort of reminded me of playing the Friday the 13th game
yeah,
because of the way it was shot from behind him
yes,
as he's
yeah,
walking.
Yep.
So I appreciated the approach. And as I said, slasher movies, it's hard to get something new. It is.
Yep.
Really, really hard. So this was kind of a mixture of new and old.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what he was doing were exactly down the trope lines.
Mm-hmm.
Complete with, some shit dialogue and some poor acting and stuff like that. Like all the key touch points, I think, were there.
Yeah.
So, I appreciated that a lot. And there was a fair bit of gore. Some interesting stuff, too.
But I also like that it went back and forth with that. Like
like
couple of
stuff
the kills,
some were off screen, some were...
A couple of the kills that shot it like... There was one particular one that involved the tree where it sort of went from the perspective to how it would look if it was in one of these movies and then drops out of it again. But then there's other ones where it's like, no, we're just going to lock the camera off and we're going to sit where the shot started and show that scene all from this distance, fucking where you're miles away from the camera. And as you said, there was a couple where it was off camera or it just cut past it. So.
Yeah. So there was some interesting ways of doing things, which I appreciated. I think there's a bit of ingenuity there that's probably we haven't seen for a bit in the slasher genre.
Yep.
So I appreciated that. I thought the gore was rock solid. I mean, you can't go wrong with practical stuff for the fans, and I think that the practical stuff was pretty well done.
I believe Chris Nash was involved in the effects on Psycho Goreman, wasn't he?
Oh, really? Has Chris Nash done anything else that we know of?
I don't think that this is his first feature. I think he's was possibly involved in one of the ABCs of Death. So yeah, it's I think he's got involvement in other films.
So this is his first feature. So
I believe so,
pretty
yeah.
decent start for a bloke. Like early on in the piece, it's early on in his filmmaking career, and I think he kind of did a pretty damn good job at the end of the day. Just rolling things off the top, as far as good things were concerned. The last thing last thing I sort of springs to mind is actually one of the actresses right at the end is actually from a Friday the 13th film.
Yes.
I didn't actually realise until I saw the credits, because obviously she's quite a bit older now. Mm-hmm. But that was a nice touch. Like bring back someone that the fans would probably know, because I believe it's Lauren Taylor, I think is her name. And I think she does a lot of conventions and stuff. So, the fans would know her, which is a nice touch to have that in there.
Yep.
Anything else from your side? What else did you sort of,
like
from the positive perspective?
I think there was a couple of scenes where I dug the kind of thoughts that it was putting in about other movies that you'd seen. So there was one particular one where he's just kind of observing these two characters on a back porch, and they start going on with a little bit of banter and whatever. And I've heard some of the criticisms about the dialogue was mostly shit from all these characters and that, but I kind of felt in this part it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it gave you this sense of, so for all those little moments where you see Jason kind of just popping up in here, Nash is showing you at this point where he's got a fucking, where he's just waiting around and observing some real fucking shit chat.
Yeah. He has to listen to just inane rubbish.
To garbage before he then goes and fucking cuts one from the herd or whatever.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that. And I liked there was parts where you were looking at it saying, okay, well, the campers have gone inside. There's one couple that look like they're, going to be looking for some alone time.
Mm.
But he kind of sticks with the character and circles around the house, and then you just get peeks of other shit. Like the couple that's kind of, you know, you get a moment of them arguing about, oh, didn't like what you said out there, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of dug the fact that he's actually gone, not only just decided we're just going to follow the killer around, but he's kind of thrown a few things like that in that make you think about, oh yeah, what might Jason have to see before he actually gets to this moment and stuff like that.
And that was a nice way to kind of fill time.
Yes.
You know, like, because there were moments, and this will come into my negatives, where it did get a little sluggish.
But the thing for me is I feel like it was always purposeful, and there was never a part where I wasn't in. I wasn't just like, oh, fuck, we've got to wrap this up. Or there was very few times where that was the case. I think, yeah, it was slow, but it was more kind of methodical than boring.
But it was only 80 minutes long too.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't a long
So it's
movie.
not like they were trying to trot out 100 minutes worth of that.
Yeah.
Which I think that's where you would have ended up having your problems.
And as I said,
you're trying to sort of fill the space with character work or something.
Yeah,
There was no time for that.
He had to craft what he was crafting in a different way.
Mm.
And I feel like some of the length of times that it took to, you know, work around a house and get to a person and do what he's going to do, that's how he did it. And I think it was pretty effective most of the time. So I quite like that. I'm still sort of thinking, you know, I'm still working through the when the perspective changes. So
Yeah.
again, a little bit of spoilery
yes.
territory, but there is a point where the perspective changes. And I must say there was one part of that where I felt like maybe it was a little bit long.
And that's what I mean about looking back on it. That's what I mean about the sluggishness. It's not when the killer's there. It's surprisingly that it almost feels a little bit like when they change perspectives that you're like, he's making almost like a comment on, this is why we all we want to do is see the killer.
Yeah.
We want to see the killer. And this is what he's... It felt almost like he was making a little statement on that by saying, you want the killer back, don't you? Like, we've spent all this time with him. Now we're going to move away from him.
But also it kind of...
But we all want him back.
It
like,
also kind of, when she was running around, number one, I think it took the same approach in that it showed, oh, this quick fucking chase sequence, this is what you miss in some of it.
It just
like
goes on and on and on, like she's just fucking running anywhere, yeah.
And it, you know, again, I thought that ramped up the tension a little bit because there was a point where you and I both thought she's fucking circled back here.
Yeah.
Basically, the sound design made you think she's circled back and she's in the shit still. But it also kind of, I was sitting there thinking, again, I think he's purposely kind of putting out there, making you think about, okay, well, what's your attachment? Because you haven't seen this girl the whole movie, basically.
Yeah. Well, there's no way to attach yourself to her because she's barely in it.
Exactly. So he's like, he's kind of throwing out, because he spent the movie, and I'm not going to say like sympathetic.
No, he hasn't, because there's not much development there either.
No, but there's moments where you're like, well, you fucked around with him.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it kind of challenges you there in that in her sequence when she's running away, and then it gets to the end, which is obviously divisive. The more I think about it, the more I kind of love the where it ended up, where she's looking around, and you don't get him.
Yeah,
because you're kind of going into, all right, well, doesn't matter if he's there or not. She's fucked. Yeah, she's going to have PTSD. She's going to be looking at, you know, over her shoulder for the rest of her life.
And I think he plays with the conventions there.
He does.
The expectation is we should see the killer come out of nowhere at the end.
Yeah.
And kill them both.
There was no kind of last...
There was none of that, you know?
No plan. You know, she abandons the fucking plan.
Which is interesting because when they stopped the car to put a tourniquet on her leg, I'm thinking, well, now he's going to come out of the fucking woods.
That's the moment that I'm thinking about, where they show her face and then they show these shots of multiple... There was one particular shot
where she's
just looking into the brush, kind of into the woods, and it sits there for about fucking 10 seconds or more, and you just... he's coming, isn't he? And it's just,
I think that there was method to the madness in all of it.
Yeah.
I think that he's trying to make a statement. Whether or not he's fully successful in all those statements is, you know, that's up to the person.
Yeah.
I didn't feel he was as successful at the end. I felt like that period was where, if we're going into something a little more negative, that period didn't strike as well for me.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's probably because I wanted the killer back. You
Yeah.
know, I was kind of on board. I'd finally got on board with it.
I need to hear the conversation about the bear again.
Yeah. And that's why a second viewing kind of will make or break the feelings on
Because
it.
there was part of me that was listening to that, and I'm like, it wasn't a bear, was it? It was him.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking.
I still think
she's telling a story about him, not about a bear.
And I'm still sort of think I'm still on that somewhat. But then I think it was also, this is why I want to hear it again. I think a lot of it might have basically be laying out what he was going for with the motivations of the killer and shit like
Maybe.
that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So for me, some of those things didn't land, right? But I think at this point in time, I think what's nagging at me negatively, and this is an interesting way to look at it, I think, is exactly what you said, and I've had the opposite effect, is that it didn't wow me at any point. And at no point did I think about it this morning. Did I ruminate on it much? It kind of hasn't held me like that.
I've had completely the opposite.
So this is why another viewing is essential here, because you need to be able to really sit through it. In the cinema, it's difficult because we're not sort of spending some time taking notes and doing that kind of thing. So that the second viewing is kind of really necessary here to really sort of finalise how I feel about it. It just didn't quite, even something like the kill that everyone keeps talking about, it just didn't play the way I was kind of, I don't know. I just
I think that was one of the few moments where he just indulged slasher stuff.
Yeah, of course. But what I'm saying,
honestly, it was fucking awesome because it was just. It's like out of all the creative stuff we've seen out of some of these people, I've never fucking seen that before.
Yeah, agreed. But I think maybe it's because I've gone past that stuff.
It's not even about the gore or anything.
I just sat there like whatever. Like it didn't hold me in any way. Whereas I preferred the log splitter.
Yeah, the log splitter.
That was cool because I was kind of like
things. It was two very different.
I know, but I was kind of like the way that they did the log splitter, where the guy's laying there, he's clearly still alive somehow.
Yeah,
and then he's dragged over.
He's broken his back and paralysed him.
And he's put him next to this fucking machine.
Yeah,
and then he actually splits a log next to him.
Yep.
And I'm like, imagine laying there knowing.
That's
fucking prick's gonna put me up on here.
See, I think they were two different things. that one was one. Something I was looking at that one is when somebody comes across a scene and sees the aftermath of it.
Mm.
And obviously there's stuff about, the killer's motivations, what he's doing and that sort of stuff. But what I was thinking through that is, so we're getting 5 minutes of this is what's happening when somebody turns up and goes, oh,
Jesus.
I mean, so it's what you see when someone turns up and goes, oh, what sort of arsehole would do that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But the one before was just like, it was reasonably quick.
Yeah, and it was over in seconds. But
it's not like, it's not that I'm a gorehound or anything, not by any stretch. But it was the creativeness of, I've literally never seen somebody even think of fucking throwing that out into a horror flick. And we've seen some random shit, but that one was just, and I think the criticism could be that the whole point of it was to get a bit of buzz.
Well, I think that's more the fans seem to have sort of, or the people who have seen it seem to have sort of jumped on that particular one. I saw that on Instagram a couple of times before I'd even seen the movie.
Yeah.
Right? So it seems like the fans have kind of embraced that particular death. So
I think it was kind of designed to do
It was designed to do exactly what you say. It's just to show that sort of creative kill that they always have in these fucking movies. Yeah,
it's a bit of an effect. Show off the effects
so,
as well.
I just come back to the fact that it didn't sort of wow me in any way. So I've had the opposite feeling that you had. So again, I feel like I need to see it again, and I need to really sort of, take it apart a little bit more. And it was hard to do that in the cinema, I guess, because, it's there's no way I can stop it, or I can't go back and listen to what that woman said again. I can get a real sense of it, and also, I mean, it could be more than one viewing. Could be a fucking couple of viewings to kind of get the sense of like, okay, what is he actually going for?
I've already settled on that. I'll be watching it as soon as it pops up on Shudder. I'll be watching it again pretty quickly. But yeah, I was just basically haven't stopped thinking about it through the day. I've Googled it a couple of times, different portions of it, read a couple of interviews with Chris Nash and that sort of thing. And
I think that's that's kind of where you can fall with it. You know, some people will really resonate. So I haven't tossed it away. I feel like there's a need to see it again. It's an interesting thing though with Shudder. And I sort of said this to you, I kind of insinuated a little bit when we first got there. I know you want to get these things in the cinema, right? You want to make some cash in your cinema run if you can get it. But Shudder, I mean, fuck. I would have fucking put that, like, you can only get it on Shudder.
Yeah, I disagree. Like, it's going to be on Shudder. So it's like, it's going to
You might be able to pull some punters. That was all I was thinking.
But they're going to if someone wants to see it anyway, because it's going to be a limited release. And
well, certainly here in Australia, we won't see it.
Whether it's on Shudder,
or a week or something like that.
Whether it's on Shudder and pulls some people in, I don't think the money's going to.
Do you think that they'll go with the Shudder? Because it's already been released in America, right?
Yeah,
in the cinemas, so it's done at cinema.
And I think it's going to be on Shudder pretty quickly.
Do you think it'll be on at the same time, early August? Like it's going to get a release here for a week, cinema-wise? Could it be on Shudder at the same time?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a short cinema release here. I think it might have actually overperformed at like festivals and shit, and perhaps they weren't considering a cinema release.
Yeah, and then it did well, and it was like,
if you're going to get in there and get a few mil in the cinema,
I wonder how much it made in the US. I wonder if it made. Did it make any reasonable dollars in there?
But yeah, I think it's if it's going to get a bit of word of mouth out of cinema, well Shudder's still going to have the kind of afterglow because
it's like anything, isn't it?
Direct to Shudder.
Even though people say that, going to cinema is kind of dying unless it's a big blockbuster or something like that. But I feel like you could still make a few dollars. And that movie would have been made for nothing, right?
Yeah.
It would have been made for fuck all. So why not get it out there? But it'll be interesting to see how long before it's on Shudder.
So it says domestic in the States, it's at about 4 mil.
Okay, 4 mil, yeah.
4.5 worldwide.
4.5 mil worldwide.
And Shudder's niche.
Yeah.
You're probably worthwhile doing that.
And it's only been released in a handful of overseas markets. UK, Lithuania, Russia.
Yeah.
Now it'll get a little run here in Australia and things like that. So yeah, you can probably bank a few million on that and then put it on Shudder. And maybe pull in some subscribers through that thing.
Yes.
See, that's what it would be for them. It would have been a coup to get long legs as well, maybe. Yeah. That would have worked nicely in their favour to have a couple of these big ticket, highly touted horror movies from this year, both on Shudder.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where when we first got Shudder, that's what we envisioned, right? That this was going to be the one that would scoop up these festival darlings and things like that. Yeah, slightly. We may have overestimated how much cash they had on hand, perhaps.
Yeah. So overall, yes, I was happy.
I've still got one more negative.
Oh, really? One more negative?
Yeah. So
that's not quite what I would have expected.
As much as I enjoyed it, which was quite a bit, I felt like, and I've still been thinking about this. Did you possibly need to overdo the? They weren't even teens. One of them looked about 30.
Yeah.
Did you possibly need to?
Was it the guy wearing the fucking
the headphones?
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
The more I think about it, I feel like did you need to overdo them a little because we only see them
briefly
a couple of times?
Yeah.
To really sort of cement, because honestly, the kill, the one that we both quite enjoyed, and maybe this is purposeful. The more that I think about it, but I didn't know which two he was killing.
Yeah,
and so I think about it, and I'm like, for me, that would be cool. But then, if we're seeing it from the killer's perspective, is it supposed to be? Well, he doesn't fucking know either. He just wants to lock it.
Do you think that they probably should have just gone a little bit over the top with characterizations straight down the line?
I'm just thinking like even just costumes.
Yeah.
I know that's the dude in the fucking gridiron shirt.
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
like that. Like,
Actually, that would have been better because you didn't have much time to really give them much flesh.
No.
So you just give them a costume that we all know.
And I think he did. Like there was parts of it that I think were successful. Like,
well, the
I've
guy with the
mentioned to
headphones, we knew who he was, so that worked.
I've mentioned to you that I think the little origin story that they whipped together was kind of cool.
Yeah, very serviceable for that type of thing.
So to get the little campfire tale out about that, to sort of come back and have I mean, essentially, it's a fucking Tommy, isn't it? The Ranger is.
Yeah, kind of.
That's what it felt like. Is that we've got the survivor from the previous film, but he's got a link to the whole thing.
And then obviously at the start we get him talking to the neighbor guy and making some references about
yes,
if you're not fucking careful,
yeah,
this is going to happen.
So I thought that was successful with a couple of things there that they needed to get out in short doses. But yeah, I'm still kind of ticking on that one. Part of me is like, well, I didn't have any fucking idea who they were. But then there's another part of me that's like, well, that's how it's supposed to be because he didn't know either. They just took something from him, and
yeah, he wants it back.
So that probably lends itself more to the whole. They're just there to be,
And I did just to circle back to a positive. I also like the fact that it perfectly captured the whole like single-minded. I'm just after the locket.
Yeah.
Like I don't give a fuck about anything else. I'm not interested in anything else. Because he goes for the locket in the neighbour's house in the first few minutes.
Yes.
So it's clear that he has no other fucking concept of anything else. He's just after the locket.
Which is kind of because when they were talking about the bear, they were talking about how it started to just kill
indiscriminately or ripping,
or whatever they said.
Yeah.
It's like it just started killing and not killing to eat. We just come across something and kill it and then continue on. But that kind of goes against the locket, doesn't it?
It does.
Like once he's got the locket back, he's got what
because
he needs
because obviously
away.
That's where we end up.
Yeah.
Is that the locket is what finishes things. So yeah, that goes against it. So maybe it's just it's a story to portray that violent nature that we're talking about here. The bear and the woods and all that type of stuff. So maybe it's not as deep as what we think.
And I've read some other stuff about how they're essentially kind of putting out that you've got the hunter at the start that's got his fucking bear traps that are killing the animals and whatever, and the teenagers are like fucking doing that onto Johnny's territory or whatever. He's just doing the same sort of thing. So there's a few things circling around which I'll be continuing to dive into, and then hopefully I'll get another watch of it and start putting a few more puzzle pieces. I mean, I think I've put the corners together.
The guts are still
fucking.
It's a 3,000 piece puzzle too.
It's a bit patchy there, but
so it'll be interesting to see when it comes on to Shudder, and I'm hoping soon rather than in a few months' time. I'd like to see it perhaps in August if they could get it on there.
Yeah,
that would be a nice little touch because we wouldn't be too far removed from having watched it for the first time. So
yeah, I don't think it's going to be long.
Yeah. All right, is that everything from you at this point in time?
Yeah, pretty much so. I think it would be worthwhile coming back to at some
I agree.
point down the track when we've worked in, put a few more pieces in.
Well, I think as I said, I think both of those films need to be rewatched. That and Longlegs. Because there are some things that perhaps, if you iron out some of it and you see it in a different light, things look different to you.
I'm making the call. I think the disappointment in Longlegs is going to remain a disappointment for me.
Yeah, well, it's hard to fix that end, isn't it? Well, or Nicolas Cage. Jesus Christ.
Again, that's where we had a difference in the 1 star for Cage difference.
But all right, so that's our initial thoughts on In a Violent Nature.
Just a quick note too. I think only an hour or two ago, it just got announced that they're going to do a sequel now.
Oh, really?
Because it's been reasonably successful. So.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah,
we'll see where that sort of turns up. But it's always nice to see slasher films kind of returning.
Well, as you said, conversation last night, you said there was a few ideas that you felt like could have been further sort of developed, or there was a few bits that you were hoping for that you didn't get. Well,
maybe this is where we go.
They got a chance to come back and do a bit more.
And again, I think there's still some shit that can be mined there. I don't feel like we saw everything that you can find in these slasher films. So there's some interesting things that perhaps might come if there's a sequel.
Yeah.
But that was initial reactions on Inner Violent Nature. Keep an eye on the Facebook page for what we cover next. But until then, take it easy, everyone, and we'll catch you later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.